wanted to talk about your warehouse first. And the reason why I want to talk about it, because I watched the video just recently, and there's a lot of things in there. If you break it down piece by piece, there's a lot of interesting parts to the video that I don't think everybody sees. The first thing I would ask you is, when is it time to get a warehouse? When is it time to make that leap to get a warehouse? What made you make that decision?
When I first started out that first year, I was going to use my son's old bedroom after he moved out. I was like, yeah, I'll use Eric's room, you know, but it was upstairs. So our first little bit of warehouse was not in my garage, but was actually in Eric's bedroom upstairs, putting all my R22 and all my 410 up there, copper. And then I'd go do a job and have like a 18-inch elbow left over, bring that back, a couple bags of ductwork that I didn't want to throw away or take back to the warehouse. So that room started getting cluttered up really quick. And I got tired of going upstairs. I thought, I'm going to go get me a storage unit. And so I went and got a storage unit, like a 5x10 storage unit. It was very narrow. It was in a hallway, but it was cool. It was kind of conditioned and it wasn't going to get hot in there. That was still within the first year. It was just me and Melissa doing the business. Real soon, I started growing out of that. 3 months later, decided to get a 10x10 locker, moved up to that. 3 months later, I'm looking to get out of that one, and we got a 10x20 locker. The thing is, we hired Keith within our first year. So I hired my first guy within the first year. We hired Keith, so there was 2 of us out in the field. Melissa doing all of the bookkeeping, answering the phone calls and things like that. It basically got to a point where I needed someone to be answering all of the phone calls. So we hired Keith's wife, Sasha, to come in part-time and help answer the phone. So now we've got 2 ladies in my home, basically in one office. Melissa would be downstairs working on the computer, on my computer, and Sasha would be upstairs working on the computer, taking calls. The demand for space was increasing. I hire another guy. So we've got 3 technicians out in the field and 2 admin people. And right around there is the time where we were like, let's get a warehouse, you know, like we're making great money. Like, let's go, let's go see what we can find. I mean, we don't know until you go look at some of these places. Well, I was in one of those networking groups one time, and there was a commercial real estate guy there. So I just called him up and said, hey, we'd be interested in getting a warehouse around the Rancho Cordova area. He comes over and he says, I got a list of warehouses that are currently open right now. Let's go check them out and see which one works for you. That's how we found one.
That's pretty cool. I've never had a warehouse before. I've had a storage locker before. That was great. I think Dave Hester ended up buying my storage locker. But that's good that you have a warehouse. The question I want to ask you next, I was looking at the comments on that video. Now, when you have a warehouse, a lot of guys were saying, are you going to make sheet metal there? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? Is it necessary that the warehouse eventually produces money?
No, I don't think so. In fact, the warehouse is making money because the front reception area is, taking in all the phone calls, setting the schedules, being polite to all of our customers. They're the first point of contact when it comes to those incoming phone calls. How Sasha and how Melissa and how I answer the phone each and every time, that's a moneymaker right there. That's customer service. So does my warehouse have to make money for me? No. I think it's a great place functionally for us to have our training sessions every Wednesday morning. We get together between 6:30 and 7:30. We were doing the training at my house, but there would also be 4 vans out in front of the house. I live in a neighborhood that has a homeowners association. People are going to start noticing that kind of build up on your street after a while, and somebody's going to complain. So we kind of had to get out of there because our business was we had too many vans out in the street. Our motto is to get and keep customers. And that very first point of contact you have with the customer, that phone call, man, that makes a customer for life right there.
Well, let me ask you a follow-up question. Since you do have a front of house now, you have a foyer, you have your 2 offices. Do customers actually come in looking for you, or is that just a place where you meet customers? Do you meet people at your office? How do you integrate your office into your customer relations?
We were able to settle on a warehouse that is right on one of the busiest streets in Sacramento County, which is Sunrise Boulevard. And it is a heavily driven road. So 3 lanes on each side of the road. It's a complete boulevard. There's a North Sunrise and there's a South Sunrise Boulevard. Highway 50 divides it. So anything north of Highway 50 on Sunrise Boulevard is already developed. Anything south on Sunrise is a lot of industrial, Home Depots, and then is a huge residential area. Over the next 25 years, all of that land out there, including the land that I live in right now, all of that's going to be developed. It's just a huge area. Talk about these large pastures of cow fields and stuff like that. You hope that they never take that land away because you like seeing the cows out there and stuff. But those are all going to be homes here in the next 20, 25 years. So where we're located right now, as far as drive-by visibility and name recognition, we got our new sign up on the front of the building. People are going to be driving to work every day, and they're going to see our vans out in front. Just being visible to the street like that is going to be enough. Now, have I had any customers come walk through the door yet? No. But we've only been there a month and a half too, so there's not really a ton of awareness yet that we're there.
What would you be happy as far as walk-ins? Is there even a goal for that, or is that not part of the plan?
I don't think there is a goal for walk-ins. However, when you were a kid and you were driving on the highway with your dad, and you were in the backseat of the car, and you're looking out the window, and you're seeing all these businesses, and you're like, oh, Red Ball Movers, and I grew up in Indianapolis, so, oh, there's Carrier Factory. Oh, there's Eli Lilly. There, you grow up knowing and recognizing these names. I think the location that we're in really plants a seed for the future, and that's what I'm betting on, is the name recognition. That is like, we have a warehouse functionally, and we have great advertising capability just being seen from a major thoroughfare like Sunrise Boulevard. That's really going to pay off down the road. And will somebody walk in the door? I'm sure somebody's going to walk through the door. We've already had like business people walk through the door, people trying to sell us stuff, insurance and other things like that. So I know that eventually customers are going to come walking through that door. Like, oh, I just love your logo. We get that a lot. You know, I love your logo. I just want to stop in, see you guys, see if there's really an office, stuff like that.
Well, I like your logo too. In fact, you've done some great things with even your animation on YouTube, and I asked you about it previously. Really impressed with that. Just the small things like that that you do well. And that's how I knew you were going to be good at this, Greg, because I don't do any of that well, and you do it all well. So it's just, I think it's your natural inclination. I think as far as having people walk into the office, I think if you can do maybe just more walk-ins over Jehovah's Witnesses, that's probably good enough right there.
That would be wonderful.
I don't think they go to businesses, but, you know, just in case, you know, just more than that. I don't want to lead us astray here. Do you meet your customers at the office to go over their job, or do you go to their houses?
Yeah, we go to their houses. You know, like just like you, our main office table is their dinner table. Sitting down at the dinner table in the kitchen is where we get a ton of business done. And I think that's the way it should be.
How do you feel about the separation now you have between your home and the office? Is it something that you welcome? Is it awkward to get used to? What's your impression?
Definitely like having the warehouse now, because like right now, I just came home to do this podcast with you. And when I'm at the office, even though it's just Melissa and Sasha, if anybody else was there, they always feel free to come into my office. In fact, I tell those guys, hey, come sit down. Feel free to come on in. And they do. So whereas right now, nobody can come bother me. I can get a little bit of peace and quiet so that I can work on some stuff. So I still got my computer downstairs. If I really need to work on a presentation or a training item, I can come home, work on my computer. We have OneDrive as our cloud device. And so I can just upload it to cloud, and it's there when I get to the office, or I can share it with Melissa at the office as well. So that's been really handy as well.
You mentioned training every Wednesday. What do you typically go over in your trainings? Are they sales related or technical related? What do you do?
All of our training sessions have been like, what is the ideal service call? What is the ideal maintenance call? And I'll actually create a system for every time we pull up to the door, to how we greet the people at the house, to putting on our boot covers in the house, to how we perform a maintenance. Let's take the maintenance, for example. I have a sheet that I've made up, and we basically just start at the top left. You start at the air filter and the thermostat, right? And that's pretty much what you do on any service call as well. You know, somebody tells you, I've got something wrong with my air conditioning system, it's not working, the unit's outdoor. That's usually what they tell you, right? I want my guys to say, I'd like to check out your air filter and thermostat. Creating that habit of always going to the thermostat and air filter first. These are things that we talk about in our training sessions. So they go down this list and they do their maintenance. We check out a certain way, and that helps new guys become service techs in the future. If they can just go down to maintenance and check all these items the way we want them checked, check gas pressure, check voltages here and there. That's what we're doing on service calls. That's what we're trying to instill in the new guys as they're coming through. So even though some of the guys that I've hired aren't new, they're still going to learn my maintenance process, and then that's going to help them out in the field as service technicians so that we're all doing it the same way. We just want a standard of doing the call. All of my guys, including myself, we really strive to, on the customer service side, like those guys are just, I was just saying this morning, there's so many technicians out there, but there's a very few guys that you don't mind sending into someone's home to represent your name. So we'll talk about training on maintenances, services, how to install properly. You know, some of those guys that I'm hiring, they weren't install techs right off the bat. They were just service techs. They were just maintenance techs. So we learn how to run gas line properly. We learn how to position the secondary drain pan under a system. You know, Jim Johnson and his training videos, you ever seen any of those?
I do believe, yes, sir.
Heat pump for us out here, it seems to always be like an enigma for technicians out here. I mean, you guys work with heat pumps all the time, but we work with gas electric all the time. There's probably like 20% of the houses around here that have heat pump in our service area, maybe 10%. So when you get a heat pump, you're like, we feel this wave of like anxiety hit us. And I just don't want my guys to feel like that. I just don't want my guys to feel like that. So we go over the Jim Johnson videos. We show him that stuff. He has workbooks prepared so that you can kind of go through. He shows us the old stuff. He shows us the new stuff. Just today, we came in 6:30. We didn't necessarily do training, but we talked about insurance for the upcoming season. We had open enrollment this morning. So we talked about that. And then afterwards, I told him about a recent call that me and Aaron were on where I was trying to help him over the phone. Basically like special calls like this where something unique came up. Maybe you stumbled through a call, but you got through it. We were able to share that with the other guys. And it's important to share that with the guys because now they can learn from our mistakes out in the field and not have to experience that themselves. We can all share. I want everybody to feel super comfortable telling each other their funny stories about what happened on the call yesterday. When I shared that with them, those guys started sharing things that happened on calls with them. It just turned into a great chat session for us.
You know, if guys got together more and talked about some of that stuff, they would probably learn a whole lot quicker. I know when I was in the field, I'm always alone in the field. There's no one to talk to. So I internalize that stuff. Right. I come from the old school, Greg. I internalize everything. But I can see the benefit of having those round tables on Wednesday to discuss those issues. Now, your warehouse, you have supplies in there. I saw it on the video, truck stock supplies. Do you ever plan on having a supply house stock your warehouse with either supplies and or equipment? You don't have to purchase it in stock. They'll leave it there in stock and bill you as you use it.
I have no plan of that. In fact, any supplies that we're not going to use, I'm going to just take right back to the warehouse. They've invited me to bring back anything I don't use. And he's like, we want to be your warehouse. This is Ferguson. Let's bring any of that stuff back to us and no questions asked. When we need equipment, we just order it. We have it delivered to the warehouse. I've given keys to both Ferguson warehouses, Ferguson Train, who gives us the equipment, and Ferguson East West, who delivers our parts. And they're more than welcome to come in anytime we're not there and leave the equipment or leave parts as needed. They just come and go as they want to.
That's really nice. Now, since you buy supplies and equipment from Ferguson, is there a Ferguson guy that stands outside your office asking you if you need coffee and if they can, move a fan?
I actually do. I feel like our territory manager, Greg Zapata, is like the most responsive person in the world. I can text him, call him. He will pick up the phone. He'll message me back very quickly. He just seems like he really wants my business, and he's always proving it. He just has one of those personalities that is like if a text shows up on his phone, he has to get to it because it'll just start eating at him. Some people can get a text and just be like, yeah, I'll get back to that later. I personally am not that way. Greg is not that way, and that's why we get along so well. And that's why he represents both of those Fergusons. train through Greg Zapata at Ferguson LA HVAC up north, and I get my parts through Ferguson East West here on the south side.
5 trucks from now, Greg, they're going to live and die by you, man. They're going to be outside every day. They're going to deliver pizzas to you.
You know, over the summer, I changed from Rude to Train, and I didn't realize what an impact that was going to have when you're buying $200,000 worth of equipment or whatever from a company. Me just being a new businessman, I didn't know that was such a big deal. Like, apparently there was lots of fallout why I was going from one Ferguson to the other Ferguson to sell Train. And they were wondering what they did and all this stuff. And it was like, it wasn't even about that. I mean, we could probably do a whole nother show.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Greg. Our next show, you can talk about moving from Ream to Train. Like you said, the fallout, some of the good, some of the bad, and what you've discovered about doing that for the first time, especially when you carry a little bit of weight with your sales and then you move over. Because if I move from one to another, the people are like, well, don't let the door hit you. When Greg moves from one to the other, it's like, why are you doing this to us? You're ruining our lives.
Oh, man, I certainly didn't see that coming.
Well, let's talk about that. We're going to cut this one off because I want to talk about your warehouse for a little while because you just got the warehouse. With the final statement here, you had your warehouse celebration. You were cutting a ribbon and everything. How did you arrange that? Is that like a Chamber of Commerce deal where everyone knows about it or what?
Yeah. So what we were going to do is our idea was to invite everyone. So we sent out evites to everyone who we thought played some role in us starting our company. So territory manager, start there, Greg Zapata, and then Jesse and David Bale, the manager of the Ferguson East West, and then managers of the Ferguson LA HVAC up on north side at Train. Make sure you invite all those guys. Make sure you invite the warehouse guys. Just see who can come. So we thought we'd get about 20 to 30 guys. And then on the other side, there's people who help us out. If you guys would have been in town, I totally would have invited you because I felt like you guys played such a big role in helping me out. Guys like Ralph and you and John Israel and stuff like that. I used to watch you guys, and you really gave me inspiration to not be afraid to go into business. So the other guys like people we used to work with, all those guys come. So finally we get an idea of how many people are going to come. About 20, right? We did join the Rancho Cordova Chamber of Commerce recently, and they wanted to do a ribbon cutting ceremony for us. So they had about, 10 more people show up with them. It was like the vice mayor of Rancho Cordova came out. Assemblyman Ken Cooley gave us a plaque while he was there. That just turned out to be a really successful event. It all just kind of played out that way. I definitely didn't think it was going to go seamlessly like that. They were like, hey, does anybody want to make a speech? And Melissa was like, yeah, he probably does. So I just made like this impromptu speech, and it was a very memorable experience. I'm never going to forget it.
That's pretty cool. Let's play some excerpts of Greg's speech right now. No, I'm just kidding. Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. Man,
it's posted on LinkedIn.
That's awesome. Okay, well, we should probably wrap this one up. I definitely want to talk about you switching to Train, and I definitely want to talk about the Ameristar from hell and back. That would be a good one, too, the little rooftop unit. I'm figuring that would be a great story at the very least. Just a great story.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for coming by and spending a few minutes with me, and I'm going to invite you back perhaps next week or the week after. We can do this again.
I really appreciate the opportunity, Zach. Thanks so much.